Faces of Abortion is the only television program of its kind that shares the powerful, real-life stories of women, men, and families who have suffered through the destruction of abortion. You will be hearing powerful stories from women and men and families throughout the nations. Faces of Abortion touches lives and changes hearts in over 115 nations. You will also be given practical steps on how you can end abortion.
So it just overwhelmed me. And I thought the only way to escape the pain was to take my life.
I had a fear that I wouldn't be able to have my own children.
It brings heartache. It brings hurt.
And I knew they were tearing my baby apart.
I remember the cold feeling of the room.
I remember laying there and I just said to myself that I will never forgive myself for what I'm doing.
I believe that my life was spared that night just so that I could be here right now and say abortion hurts women.
Whisper, be silent no more.
Welcome to Faces of Abortion. I'm your host, Cindy Collins, and I'd like to introduce my co-host, Alan Parker, President of the Justice Foundation, and Clayton Trotter, General Counsel of the Justice Foundation, and our very special studio guest, Cheryl.
Cindy, this week we're going to be very blessed to hear the stories of two women, Hallie and Cheryl, as they tell us what abortion did in their lives.
That's right, Alan. And now let's go ahead and hear Hallie's powerful story in her own words.
Hi, I'm Hallie Duckworth. When I was a senior in high school, I found myself pregnant. In the South, good girls from Christian families just don't get pregnant. So my parents made arrangements through our personal physician for me to go out of state and have an abortion. So the problem would be taken care of. The only thing I remember about my abortion was putting the anesthesia mask on and counting backwards from 100. I woke up in the recovery room, drove home, and we never talked about it again. But yet there was a hole in my heart, a void there left by the abortion. So about 3 years later, I found myself pregnant again. This time I made the choice to marry the father of my child. But as I said, there was still a hole there that I couldn't fill. And that marriage quickly ended after the next 4 or 5 years. Several years later, I got married again. And in fact, my second husband died in 1999 and never knew that I'd ever had an abortion. That shame had been pushed further and further back in my life. And it wasn't until 2005, after my current husband and I were separated, and I was attending a women's conference, I went to receive communion to pray about my marriage. Right there, the Lord literally broke the bread in my hand and said, it's not your marriage you need to deal with, it's the abortion you need to deal with. I went to my knees that night and I prayed, and God freed me from that. The next day I was able to share with a room full of women about my abortion. Since then, many of those women have come to me and shared they've also had an abortion and they're working through the healing process. The final healing didn't come though until this year, Mother's Day of 2006, where I attended the Missing Memorial, where 5 million pennies are being collected to represent each child that was lost in an abortion. And as they explained, that penny may seem worthless at the time, but when you take 50 million of them and put it together, that's the weight that's on the hearts and the shoulders of every man and woman who's lost their child to abortion. That Saturday, my husband and I named my daughter Victoria, and we grieved over the loss of that child. But I can tell you, I thank God that He's a God of second chances, because now I'm serving as the executive director of the Christmas Village Foundation. The Christmas Village is a safe haven for women, so women who are facing unplanned or unexpected pregnancies can come and know about the unconditional love of Jesus Christ, where they can learn life skills and job skills and make a good decision about their future, whether it be parenting their child or placing their child for adoption. If you're a young woman out there right now that's facing an unplanned pregnancy, you may feel hopeless or overwhelmed or even lonely. But one bad choice doesn't have to lead to a series of bad choices. If you're a parent out there who has a daughter that's facing an unplanned pregnancy, it's not just a problem that can be thrown away, because if you don't deal with that problem and turn it over to the Lord, your daughter is going to be facing that problem over and over for her entire life. And I encourage you to contact the Christmas Village or your local crisis pregnancy center. There are people to help. And God bless.
You've just heard Hallie's story of how abortion has affected her life. A powerful story of hurt and trauma of abortion's after effects. If that sounds like you and you need help, someone to speak with, we want to encourage you to call our 24-hour helpline right now. I know Alan and Clayton, and just knowing that we have a helpline with Operation Outcry, I wish that I would have known that as a woman who had gone through abortion, and hearing Hallie's heart of how the trauma, the effect, broken relationships, and she finally realized that it was not the relationships, the marriage, but the Lord spoke to her, it was the abortion that was causing the pain in her heart.
It was. And yet if you go back to the beginning, the problem they were trying to solve was her pregnancy. And her parents didn't want that shame for their family, so they sent her out of state somewhere to get an abortion. And she got a somewhat unusual abortion with full anesthesia, which is rare in the United States. And so she may not have remembered the procedure, but she woke up with a hole in her heart and something that was there and was deep. And we don't let women grieve for the loss of that child. We force them to say, you had to do it, it was the right thing. And if they ever bring it up to the parents have guilt and anger and hurt themselves that they're having to deal with.
You know, Alan, it's, what you just said reminds me so much of coaches that I used to deal with in high school who would just say, suck it up, get on with it, go on with your life. You know, it's tough, get going. And that's what we tell women in this country, is that, you know, you've just sacrificed your baby, but just get over it. And, you know, I think one of the things, though, about Hallie is that she took that experience, and now she has Christmas Village. Now she's ministering to other women to give them the opportunity to have a place to go so they don't have to experience what she experienced. And there's all kinds of places like that in the country.
There are over 3,000 of those across the United States, and our helpline is available 24 hours a day for any woman who needs a place to go. We can help find them a place anywhere in the United States where they can stay and have the baby, and either make that decision to keep the baby